and a former Assistant General Secretary of the Indian Commercial Pilots Association. And also joining us in the studio tonight is Mr. V. Prakash. He's Senior Counsel for the National Aviators Guild. Thank you very much to both of you. Let's start at the beginning. I mean, somewhere along the way, the very purpose of why this all started has got a little bit lost.
See, it always happens when there is a public inconvenience, we get focused with that, you know.
Yes, indeed.
But we don't, then what happens, like what the ground staff are saying, they are facing the immediate irritation and they think the solution is something that they are advocating. But one has to analyze who is responsible for this chaos. I think that should be the approach.
Right. What is your feeling about the whole situation?
See, I've come into this because I know many of the jet air pilots, and having been associated with union work, I'm just advising them. And why it came about, they were a very happy lot, but during the last 3-4 years, they found that there's been a lot of emphasis on promoting only the expatriate pilots, and the progression of the Indian pilots were not looked into. There was a definite bias. So as the Society for Welfare of Indian Pilots, the SWIP, was handling, they found that they could not deal directly with the management. Like, as a society, you can't bind them on something. So they found that during the time of difficulties, when they helped out the management, several promises were made. But as soon as the troubled times were over, they forgot the promises. So they decided that the only way they can get their rights protected is to form a union.
But wouldn't all the staff of the airline have actually helped out the management? Why are you only saying that the pilots did?
Well, during the cabin crew problem last year,
Yes.
if you knew, the politicians came into the picture. That's right. But for the pilots, you know, that's a professional organization.
So you say that they have no help, or what?
No, you see, the general impression is pilots are paid so much. Like you heard one of the
Yes.
cabin staff saying they're paid so well.
Yeah, right.
You know, because of the salary we are paid, there is a kind of jealousy among most of the people, including the management staff. They don't realize that the pilots are paid so much
A great
because
responsibility.
the risk involved.
Absolutely.
So they don't seem to understand the risk factor which we go through. They only talk of the high salaries. That is the main problem.
Let's ask, what is the current situation now as we speak, sir?
From what I've heard, that there's been a standoff because the management wants them to dissolve the union, and the union does not want to dissolve what is legally done. And it seems they said, okay, you can continue, but with some conditions. It's like pulling out the fangs from a snake. So they are not accepting that. So what I heard is it has been literally a failure today.
Does it look like the talks will carry on?
No, see, they are constantly consulting whether this is okay, that is okay, but the focus of the management seems to be that the union should not be there. I think in a democratic India, one cannot take a stand. But I also think that this is a situation we shouldn't just focus about Jet Airways alone, but look at a larger picture. I think there is a larger picture. If you see the sequence of events, terminations. For terminations, the remedy takes longer, you see. Therefore, the compulsion to do something. Whereas on the contrary, if you have some immediate remedy, you know, this would not have happened. Therefore, there is a lacuna in law which makes it injury immediate for the working class. At the same time, remedy remote. That is an issue that has to be addressed, and I think government should focus on the larger picture and ensure that these kind of things don't happen.
So sorry to interrupt you, but what can be that immediate remedy? You were suggesting it, but is it possible?
It is certainly possible. For example, see, suppose you get, suppose you are going to be dispossessed, you can go and get an injunction. Like that, there should be a provision for interim reliefs for workers to immediately go get. So what happens? A neutral arbitrator gets into the picture and says this is the fair thing to happen meanwhile. So these kind of direct, whatever is being alleged against the pilots, because pilots don't say that they are on strike actually.
Right, they say they're on sick leave.
They're all sick.
Are they really sick is the point, right?
Is a perspective.
One point I like to make there.
Please.
You see, it is not sickness in the medical terms. Like if you see in US or even in Europe, you find that airlines tell you that if you feel that you're not in a mental condition to operate a flight safely, do not report for the flight. Because when you're stressed, your reaction time slows down. You take many of the accidents which have happened during the last few years. The Air France crash in Toronto. The pilot delayed his reverser selection by 17 seconds. They were lucky that no one died there. You take this TAM Airlines crash in Sao Paulo. He delayed the reverser by applying the brakes by 10 seconds, and 197 died. So when you're fatigued or you're not in a mental frame of mind, you should not operate. So, sending doctors home at 1 o'clock to your colleague, it's definitely going to stress the others. And that's not a civilized manner of behaving.
So you're saying they're sick of basically going to work. That's what you're pointing at. Okay.
So if you go to work when you're not in a mental frame of mind, you're actually a dangerous person.
Right. Is that actually held true? Can we actually hold true to that in our Indian conditions and in the Indian aviation industry?
Of course. See, the reason why we think we are in a very safe environment, because you think that the last crash we had was a Patna one. But we've had miraculous escapes in several incidents. You take the 3 near misses in Mumbai, it was just a fraction of a second. We've been lucky in many of the instances, and you can't expect luck to last forever.